When stripped down to my barest of bones as a content creator, I am a Fallout, fighting game, and Naruto YouTuber, or at least those were the things I was knowledgeable enough on to be confident to talk about in order to start this channel. But considering that I am a combination of these different types of content, I may as well make the common topics all of these content creators make to get them out of the way. And one of those topics for Naruto content creators is most certainly ranking the Akatsuki from weakest to strongest. Though this was a pretty common topic while Naruto was ongoing, and even for some years after its conclusion, it's sort of gone out of style in recent years, but topics like Edo Nagato versus Edo Itachi, Obito versus Itachi, or Itachi versus Pain, notice a trend here, have brought discussions regarding the difference in strength between the Akatsuki members back into the forefront of the Naruto community. And arguments have evolved since this topic used to be incredibly common, but no further introduction is really needed. Let's start off with the weakest Akatsuki member. I don't really think I need to explain myself with this one. Zetsu has always been known as the weakest and doesn't really have any showings at all to say he's above anyone else on the list. Some say that he's just an intel man for the Akatsuki, but that's obviously not entirely true, as white Zetsu are used to fight against the Shinobi Alliance in the War Arc, and Kaguya even thought that they were worth making an army of, but they're honestly like average Jonin level, and there really isn't much to say about them. If you want to include Madara's death as a feat for Zetsu, then sure, but I don't think anyone actually unironically does that, and he has nothing else to say that he is consistently on that tier of power anyway, rendering it an outlier. There are plenty of other ways you could argue Zetsu over some of the weaker characters in the story, but as it comes to his placement within the Akatsuki, he undoubtedly comes up short. Similarly, there isn't really much to say about Hidan either. He does fight somewhat equally with Asuma, who admits that Hidan is stronger than him, with Asuma previously capable of intercepting Part 1 Kisame and even cutting his face. However, Hidan can only really put Asuma down using his ritual jutsu, which is pretty strong, but can be countered pretty hard if you're just simply faster than him, or doing something like cutting his arms off, since he needs Kakuzu to reattach his limbs. Hidan and Kakashi also go somewhat even in terms of speed, but this is in midair, with Kakashi more so on the defensive back foot and worried about one of Kakuzu's hearts. You could argue that he tanked a blast from the Two Tails, but this isn't really impressive when you consider that other characters like Deidara can completely one-shot the Three Tails, and pretty much every single member of the Akatsuki has scaling to the tailed beasts anyway. Potentially one of the most overrated Naruto characters ever in terms of their scaling, some of you might have an immediate visceral reaction to seeing Sasori this low on the list, but I assure you there is reasoning behind this placement. Some time ago there was a bit of a meme in the community decrying or mocking people who had asserted that Sasori had genuinely lost to Sakura, but the evidence for this being the case is undeniable. Sakura can both react to and destroy the initial Haruko shell in a single hit, destroys the third Kazekage puppet in another single hit, and destroys Sasori's own puppet body in another single hit. Sasori is also unable to react to the ceiling ball that Sakura throws at him, as well as even while poisoned and incredibly weakened, she is able to intercept his sword from stabbing Chiyo, but Sasori struggling to remove the sword from her body because she is holding it in place. There are points in the encounter where Chiyo is controlling Sakura like a puppet, but there are several instances of Sakura reacting to and damaging Sasori without this control, and even while fatigued. Neither should this controlling be amplifying her strength in any way. Throughout the fight, Sasori also considers Sakura impressive or decides that he will kill her on numerous occasions, even stating that he is using his best puppets, meaning that the attempts to do so or his attacks on Sakura and Chiyo are not him holding back. I am not claiming, however, that Sasori is weak, as he should still be comparable to the tailed beast like most if not all Akatsuki members are, and could dismantle Hidan or Zetsu with ease. I'm also not claiming Sasori is weaker than Sakura, as there are also several instances where she is struggling to react to him as he is her, so you could argue there being some form of relativity between the two, and Sakura more than likely losing a one-on-one confrontation without Chiyo's extensive experience as a puppet master user at her side. The most unscalable Naruto character of all time, Konan has always been a character whose true capabilities are notoriously difficult to pinpoint. With not much screen time to her name, Konan has next to no showings to really put her above anyone else on this list. She loses her only real fight against Base Jiraiya in 3 pages flat, and Pain says that Naruto would beat her up. There is her infamous 600 billion paper bombs against Orange Mask Obito, but this is after she's been preparing for years and has ran the simulations over and over in her own words, meaning this isn't something she'd be capable of in a normal fight or random encounter against someone else on this list, and this was something she had planned for years against Obito specifically. But I'm sure you're asking yourself why I would even have Konan this high despite all this. Well, there is already Hidan conceding that he is the weakest and slowest member of the Akatsuki, meaning that she would be able to at least beat him with her paper bombs that should be somewhat comparable to the one Shikamaru used to kill him. But there is also the notorious fight between her and Sasori in the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Revolution game movie, Creation of the Akatsuki, where she beats both Sasori and his third Kazekage puppet. Now, I have no idea if this movie is canon to the manga. I know Noodles wouldn't want it to be, but it doesn't really contradict anything that happens in the manga, and some even claim that this game and movie story was supervised by Kishimoto himself. I won't take one stance or another, but both Sasori and Konan have scaling over Hidan and Zetsu regardless, and therefore you can consider the ranking between the two as an interchangeable placement. I really don't know how else to start off this section, and there really is no other way to start it than mentioning the now notorious arguments putting Kakuzu over Pain, popularized by the aforementioned Noodles, and things like both he and Webcam Parrot's debate with Suikage, currently sitting at over 500,000 views on Six's channel as of this recording.
About like Kakuzu tanked the punch from Kakuzu, and Pain is way above Asuma. Not Kakuzu. Asuma tanked the punch from Kakuzu, yeah, and Pain is way above Asuma because he blocked punches from Sage Naruto. So.
Why is Sage Naruto more powerful than Asuma?
Are you gonna like say like for the camera that like fucking Asuma could beat Sage Naruto in a fight?
Listen, dude, Haku was like on...
However, as I'm sure you can tell from this placement, I myself obviously don't believe that Kakuzu beats Pain. A good portion of these arguments originate from the idea that Kakuzu could both react to and murder Yugito Ni, who may be a perfect two-tails Jinchuriki, but there are contradictory accounts of whether or not she is. An entry in Data Book 3 says that she, quote, had the peculiarity of using fast movements and the power of the tailed beast. However, she was able to master this high power because of her strong conviction of wanting to protect the village because she kept improving herself, end quote. However, it's also worth noting that there are also other statements from very knowledgeable characters like Danzo, who state that the only ones who have ever been able to completely control a tailed beast are Hashirama, Madara, the 4th Mizukage Yagura, and Killer Bee. Yukito is also a member of the Cloud Village and the Raikage, someone who would know about the status of both the tailed beast and their Jinchuriki within their village, does not correct Danzo when he says this. Yukito transforms into the two-tails Matatabi during her fight with Kakuzu and Hidan as well, and upon seeing this transformation, Hidan says that she's turned herself over completely to her tailed beast spirit, clearly implying that she's not exactly in control of it like a perfect Jinchuriki would be. The reason people bring this up is due to the fact that Yugito is able to fight with KCM Naruto and Killer Bee later on in the war arc, and Naruto states that he's stronger than when he fought Pain. Despite Yugito's status as a perfect Jinchuriki being undeniably dubious, the fight against KCM Naruto and Killer Bee also doesn't mean much, as it is stated that Obito is controlling the Jinchuriki-like paths of Pain by Naruto, someone who fought Pain, so he would know. And therefore things like their reaction speed aren't exactly a one-to-one of what they would be capable of while they're alive. This makes sense when you consider that Kakuzu has tons of anti-feats and statements like Deidara feeling the need to warn Kakuzu about Naruto, a Naruto he would only know about pre-Ross and Shuriken training. Kakuzu is also shown to somewhat struggle with Kakashi and even Shikamaru in terms of speed. Once he tries and fails to catch Shikamaru off guard in their initial encounter, and other times over the course of their second, like when Hidan feels the need to warn Kakuzu so he can react to Shikamaru controlling him. This Shikamaru shouldn't have improved in any way between this fight and Pain's invasion, and Shikaku, his father who is smarter than him, says Sage Naruto and Pain are out of his league entirely. Even outside of these two instances pertaining to Shikamaru, Kakashi is just shown to intercept him numerous times, and the team of Kakashi paired with Inoshikacho are capable of destroying 2 of his hearts. There's also the fact that Asuma is capable of taking a kick from him and getting up after, which, if Kakuzu was as strong as these arguments claim, wouldn't be the case. I know I've been somewhat harsh to Kakuzu, but I would like to commend him and say that he is undoubtedly strong, as not only does he have all 5 chakra natures, which is incredibly versatile and impressive for a pre-6 pass tier character, but he was fighting pretty evenly with and for the most part outshining Kakashi, and it takes Naruto with Kurama chakra and using what's described as a 4th Hokage level jutsu to take him down. It might seem very strange or feel out of place seeing Deidara this high, but I assure you this placement is well deserved. This man is a monster and an underrated one at that. To go ahead and get the statement I know everyone is going to mention out of the way, when confronted by both Naruto with a QB amp and Kakashi, Deidara looks at how this situation is clearly not in his favor and goes, "Kakashi of the Sharingan, you want to fight me? I'm sure I shouldn't say this, but Sasori is stronger than I." Probably. Yeah, Kakashi then looks at him with ellipses, implying that he is thinking or considering something, and Naruto tells Kakashi that he should go help Sakura with Sasori instead, and that he can handle Deidara alone. In the anime, which doesn't take priority over the manga but adds more context to certain scenes or areas within the story after it, Deidara doesn't at all say anything about Sasori being stronger than him, and only questions if Sakura and Chiyo are really strong enough to take on Sasori by themselves in a mocking tone to Naruto and Kakashi. There are also several ways this statement can be translated. Some translators that I've used change the statement to say only Sasori is maybe stronger than me, and others have Deidara say Sasori is stronger than me probably. Essentially what I'm trying to convey here is that in this moment, Deidara is more than likely half-heartedly or mockingly exaggerating Sasori's strength to get Kakashi off his back, as only Naruto is really relevant to him here since he is Deidara's target as a Jinchuriki. And knowing Deidara's character where he's so incredibly prideful and went to the lengths of committing suicide because he was so enraged at how there was nothing he could do to beat Sasuke, I don't think someone being stronger than him is something he'd ever genuinely say to another person. The context in which Deidara says that Sasori is stronger than him is also super shady and questionable, both with the varying translations and with the Sasori is stronger than I, probably yeah. If Deidara did in fact genuinely believe that Sasori is stronger than him, he would just outright state it without adding the probably yeah portion in order to make the idea seem more convincing to Kakashi. However, even outside of this statement, the scaling just simply does not line up in Sasori's favor in any way. Deidara is able to both react to and damage Heavy Sasuke several times throughout their fight, even slightly getting the better of him in Curse Seal 2, with Deidara being at the disadvantage despite the comparable stats due to their difference in chakra natures. Heavy Sasuke is an incredibly strong character at this point in the series, as even pre-Orochimaru absorbed, Sasuke showed himself to be pretty handily above Naruto, Sai, Yamato, and Sakura, the same Sakura who Sasori struggles with, meaning Deidara is stronger than Sasori. This similarly includes a Naruto who does undoubtedly get stronger since this encounter, but also believes that he is still weaker than Sasuke even after his Rasen Shuriken training and defeating Kakuzu, despite only meeting Sasuke before absorbing Orochimaru, meaning Deidara is stronger than Kakuzu. Most of the arguments putting Sasori over Deidara surround either the at best inconclusive statement I just addressed, or saying that the third Kazekage is the strongest of the Kazekage, and since Sasori has a puppet of the third, he should be able to just completely demolish Deidara, who has a somewhat even battle with Gaara, the fifth Kazekage. These statements, however, only says that he was hailed as the strongest, making it more so a matter of opinion from the people of the Sand. The Sand Village elders themselves also iterate that he is only the strongest among he and his predecessors, not including Gaara or Raso, Gaara's father. This is fairly consistent when you consider that some of the best scaling we have for the third Kazekage is that he would regularly fight Shukaku, the one-tailed beast, yet Gaara's Sand is capable of taking attacks from Deidara's bombs, which are capable of one-shotting the three-tails Isobu. Deidara's clay bombs serve a variety of different combat applications as well. Not only do they grant him the ability to fly, but they can also serve as landmines, be used for substitution jutsu, and some of them can even negate durability entirely. With Deidara's versatility and showings, it's no wonder that Pain considers Deidara to be an irreplaceable member of the Akatsuki, which he doesn't say for either Sasori or Kakuzu. And Kisame also adds that Deidara was one of the stronger members, which perfectly segues into Kisame for a long time has been one of the more enjoyable members, as I really like how unique his abilities are even though he doesn't have anything like a dojutsu. With his sword Samehara, Kisame can absorb his opponent's chakra for his own use, even being stated to get stronger correspondingly with the strength of his opponents, with a pretty impressive healing factor to top it off. He is also incredibly proficient in water style and can flood entire forests in mere seconds, taking opponents off balance. But before I can get into more of Kisame's physical showings, I do want to briefly address the idea that Kisame is somehow weaker than Jiraiya. It's commonly acknowledged at this point that Itachi chose to retreat against Jiraiya because he's an undercover agent for the Leaf who believes in things like the Will of Fire and even killed his entire family just for the safety of Konoha. Therefore, him deciding to retreat against Jiraiya is simply him not wanting to unnecessarily hurt another member of the Leaf village who holds the same values as he, and not any admission of inferiority. Kisame doing the same is merely because Itachi is doing it as well. The Akatsuki is known for working in two-man cells, with both members of these duos being accustomed to or forming a deep respect for one another, with Kisame and Itachi being no exception and honestly the best example of this idea. As Kisame holds Itachi in incredibly high regards, once he sees Itachi deciding that he would rather retreat than fight Jiraiya, not only out of disrespect, but also to properly coordinate as a team, it only makes sense that Kisame himself would run as well, and he even questions this decision as they escape. There is also another statement later on where Kisame is unsure about the outcome outcome of a fight between the two, but this is merely in relation to their accolades, as Kisame then says that the title of Sannin, or Legendary 3, makes the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist, which Kisame is a part of, pale in comparison. Even if we concede that this Kisame is weaker than Jiraiya, this is just part 1 Kisame and he gets stronger leading up to the events of Shippuden. This is evident by the way Jiraiya admits to having a near-death experience from a fight with Four Tails Naruto, and is even shown retreating from Roshi, the Four Tails Jinchuriki, in the new Minato one-shot manga. This is in contrast to Kisame, who can defeat Roshi with seemingly no difficulty, and also has a pretty pitched fight against perfect 8 Tails Jinchuriki Killer Bee, fighting him in both versions of his tailed beast cloak and saying that the 8 Tails ended up being rather disappointing. It goes without saying that this is insanely impressive, as B is fairly comparable to KCM Naruto and the Raikage, even in his base form, knocking the V1 Raikage to his feet and also notoriously destroying MS Sasuke during their encounter, even with the help of Karin, Suigetsu, and Jugo. Kisame also fights Might Guy, who is Kakashi's equal, and forces him to go into the 7th gate later on just before the war, even without fusing with Samehada, who decided to leave for Killer Bee. With a moniker like the Tailless Tailed Beast, it's no wonder Kisame is as strong as he is, and he may more than likely be the first member on this list to reach or just surpass the strength of the Sannin. Any fight against him would prove difficult while he is stealing chakra and regenerating or adapting to the increasing strength of his opponents. This is an incredibly difficult section to write for many different reasons, and the conclusion to this topic hasn't gotten any easier to discern even as the years go on since the series' conclusion. There are numerous statements spread throughout various different points or releases of the manga that could imply one is over the other, like a weekly statement at the end of chapter 364 declaring that the strongest man in the Akatsuki pursues Naruto, when in that chapter Obito orders Pain to capture Naruto, but confusingly in the chapter right after that, being 365, Itachi himself pursues Naruto as well to have a conversation with him. This also doesn't necessarily convey a winner, since it only says one is stronger, but doesn't mention their abilities or speed. Some have even pointed to the several different statements that speak of Pain very highly in supplementary material where both Pain and Itachi are covered, like Data Book 3, which describes Pain as invincible, immortal, and unbeatable. These statements, however, are obviously hyperbolic, as not only do they include panels from a fight where Pain himself concedes that he would have lost to Jiraiya if he had the intel before heading into their encounter, meaning that he is beatable, but Pain being invincible is more so of a self-appointed title, as he refers to himself as a god, and Obito later mentions this title to poke fun at him. There are other similar nothing burger arguments, like Zetsu thinking that Obito having a plan in case of Nagato's death is outlandish, since he never thought it possible that Nagato would die, yet Zetsu doesn't think the same for Itachi dying. However, the full extent of Itachi's capabilities is entirely unknown, as it is a central point to his character that he is nearly always holding back, with even the data books describing his power to be, quote, warped in mystery, and his sickness would have guaranteed his death as well, regardless of his strength. Outside of these supplementary or just flat-out unreliable statements, however, the argument does still tend to lean in a certain direction. Firstly, we have to acknowledge that Pain does somewhat struggle with Jiraiya, and states that he is a threat upon feeling his chakra when he enters the Hidden Rain. You could attempt to argue that Pain is somewhat restricted from being in the Rain Village, but this doesn't really change the fact that Jiraiya manages to react to and land a couple of blows on Pain throughout the fight, which Pain considers impressive. Obito also later mockingly says that Pain had his hands full, which neither Pain himself or Konan contest. Itachi fights one of the Sannin as well, being Orochimaru on 2 separate occasions, and undeniably decimates him both times, and the Sannin, at least at this point, are portrayed to be relative or somewhat comparable to one another, with Orochimaru admitting inferiority to Itachi in several instances throughout the manga. Obito's perception of the two is similarly something to take note of, with various statements throughout the arguably canon novel saying that Obito, who can contend with even Minato and control the Nine Tails, considered a young Itachi to be an opponent for himself, or saying that he would be dead if Itachi had known all of his secrets. This is in comparison to Obito mocking Pain for struggling with Jiraiya, and even Minato saying that Pain isn't as much of a threat as Obito is, despite watching his entire fight with Naruto, and Minato only realistically having knowledge on how strong Obito is from their encounter during the Nine Tails attack, when he was potentially much weaker, meaning that Obito, who is blatantly stronger than Pain, considers Itachi a rival or a genuine threat to himself, and even purposely stayed away from Konoha until Itachi's death, referring to Itachi as an eyesore, yet Pain as his underling. While the Rinnegan is undoubtedly very versatile and powerful, the Mangekyo Sharingan is as well, with Itachi himself having things like Amaterasu, which is just stated to be the best defensive ocular jutsu by Sage Kabuto, someone who has extensive knowledge on the Rinnegan with both Nagato and Madara as Edo Tensei summons. As I've discussed in other videos, Itachi does have very notably poor stamina that prevents him from fighting for extended periods of time, but Pain doesn't necessarily have any win conditions that could even take advantage of this weakness, since the other paths don't have very many good showings to contend with Itachi, and the Diva path itself is shown to be somewhat physically on par with Sage Naruto, who suspects that he needs mastery of the Nine Tails to fight Sasuke, the same Sasuke who is stated to still be weaker than Itachi. If you believe Pain wins, I wouldn't exactly hold it against you, but as it stands right now, I personally believe the evidence is just more overwhelmingly and blatantly in Itachi's favor, and therefore I will be proceeding with Pain in third place and Itachi in second. I'm sure this placement comes as no surprise to any of you, and nor should it be. Even at this point in just his orange mask, and while masquerading as both Madara and Tobi, Obito was incredibly formidable and implied to mysteriously be beyond any of the other Akatsuki members or what they've been shown capable of previously. As I mentioned earlier, Minato perceives Obito to be a greater threat than Pain despite only having knowledge of Obito's capabilities during their encounter where Obito was only 14 years of age, to the point that Ninetales mastery is necessary to even remotely stand a chance, alongside Obito referring to Pain as his underling and looking down upon him numerous times. Being above Pain and being somewhat comparable to Minato in the full Ninetales should be more than enough to put Obito over everyone else on this list. However, he also has other showings like annihilating Konan once he starts taking her seriously, automatically putting him above the lower ranked Akatsuki members. Obito also infamously looks down on the reincarnated members summoned by Kabuto, which include Itachi, Deidara, Sasori, Kakuzu, and Nagato, only showing any hint of unease once Kabuto shows his Madara summon. And he is also capable of casually reacting to people like the Raikage at the summit, a feat only the likes of KCM Naruto could accomplish and something MS Sasuke was struggling with Obito also being somewhat disappointed with Sasuke's performance against Danzo and the rest of the 5 Kage summit. Needless to say, Obito is a monster and effortlessly outclasses the other members with just his physical capabilities, but it becomes even worse when you start factoring in things like Kamui in fights against each of the different members, where a lot of their arsenals just get negated by Obito's intangibility in combination with his physicals. And that's all she wrote. Making a video like this can be an all-consuming and daunting endeavor, as there are so many different arguments that have been made for these characters over the years, each varying in both recognition and validity. With that being said, however, I believe I was fair and clear enough in my positions, and I hope I've presented a definitive modern list for anyone looking back on these characters or that maybe still debates topics pertaining to the Akatsuki to this day. I have a variety of other Naruto content on my channel you may be interested in, like my recent Naruto vs Ichigo video or Can Obito Beat All the Espada, if you're more interested in Obito scaling. But there's also my video dissecting how strong Urashiki should be if you're more interested in Naruto inverse. I plan to make more content related to Naruto and Boruto in the future, so subscribe for free to be notified of future projects and when I upload or stream. Like this video to support the channel and myself, as well as let me know that this is the type of content you want to see. Thank you all for watching, and have a blessed day.